Hi everyone, and welcome to our final panel of the series. I hope everyone is doing good and you have enjoyed the series as much as I have and everyone on our team. Not being biased, of course, always honest. Yes, I know it's the fourth day. You've probably heard me speak enough now, but for those who have joined for the first time, my name is Gabriel Ajala, and I'm part of the team here at ASU, African Sports Unified, as you can see above my head. Yeah, we're really proud to bring, in partnership with SOAS and Fruition, this series where we focus on global organizations in Africa. And today we have a great panel to end this wonderful series so far, where we'll be talking on the partnership between Visit Rwanda and Arsenal Football Club. Just to give you a bit of a background of who we are a sports business organization that focuses on the growing Pan-African sports market. And so how do we do that? We do that by having conversations such as these. We do events, content, and provide data just to give a more transparent view of the Pan-African sports market and to help grow and play our part in growing a sustainable sporting ecosystem where Africa and the whole Pan-African sports market has a seat or a firm seat at the table. So yeah, enough about us and what we do. So before we get into it, just want to give a few housekeeping rules. If you are joining for the first time, if you are wanting to tweet or go on social media, then please use our hashtags throughout the whole series that we've been using: Global in Africa and ASU series. I'll put it in the chat section for anyone who wants to know that or how to spell it, or people who will join later. And lastly, we will be sending out a survey as well at the end of this panel, likely tomorrow. So please do keep an eye out for that in your emails. Of course, that will help us moving forward just to know what went well, what didn't go so well, and of course, how we can better serve you guys here who are listening, who are in the market, because that is our objective here. And so before I hand over to Deji, I just want to play a video that will, I am sure, whet everyone's appetite and gets excited for what's in store. So let's watch this video. Brilliant. Over to you, Deji.
Awesome. Thank you, Gabriel. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Deji Akande, and it's a pleasure, a privilege to be hosting and moderating this panel today. Really appreciate the good work that ASU are doing. Loving this week's activity and conference. And yes, it's good to be involved in this final day. So I guess by way of introductions, I'll just give you a bit of background to who I am, and then really excited to be speaking with our awesome panelists today. So I co-founder and director of an athlete management agency called Gateway Sports, and founded that end of 2018. And prior to that, I've kind of been across the commercial partnership space, spells of British Athletics, Lagardère, Mongoose Sport Entertainment. And I guess for a little while now, I've known Gabriel for a moment, and it's been a pleasure speaking with him and hearing his passion, a passion that we share, and that's certainly Africa and the sports business climate. So yeah, really great to see this come to life, especially in a challenging year. It's good to come together with colleagues and peers in the industry to chop things up and learn and grow and ultimately be inspired. So over to Gordon. It'll be great to hear a bit about Gordon from Arsenal and understand where he's coming from, and then we're going to meet Emmanuel from Visit Rwanda as well. So Gordon.
Deji, thanks for the introduction. I'd just like to say thank you to Africa Sports Unified as well for arranging the event. I believe it's went well so far over the last few days, so hopefully everyone's enjoyed it, and hopefully myself and Emmanuel performed better than the video did a couple of minutes ago. But my role at Arsenal, I head up the partner services team, and so I'm responsible for managing the team that oversees the management of all of our commercial partners, and our partnership with Rwanda Development Board, which we're talking about today, are one of our lead partners and one of the most important partnerships that we have. So very hopefully you're all interested to hear about that today.
Fantastic. Pleasure to be chatting with you today, Gordon. And Emmanuel from Visit Rwanda, it'd be awesome to hear a bit about your role, and then we'll definitely dive in a bit more later on.
Sure. Thanks, Deji. And yes, thank you to ASU as well, Africa Sports Unified, and Gabriel and your whole team. And yes, congrats actually on the event. So my role, I'm partnerships manager for Visit Rwanda in the UK. Prior to that, I worked as a communications officer at the Rwandan High Commission in London. So for me personally, it's actually in this partnership with Arsenal and this sort of work, something that's, I think, special, transformational, and without going into too much detail, we'll go into it during the discussion. But my role essentially is to oversee from the UK anyway, the day-to-day management of the partnership, and also make sure that we're amplifying and utilizing all the rights that it brings and all the opportunities. And that's more or less the gist of what I do, and everything else that we can to also promote Rwanda in the UK, using this partnership as a conduit to tell the story.
Awesome, good stuff. So I guess to kick off, I guess with my background, I'm always fascinated to hear about how partnerships come about. Very much been directly in the processes on many occasions, but I would love to hear, Gordon, I guess from your perspective, take it back to 2018. What was the first conversation about bringing this partnership to life? Taking Africa to the world and the world to Africa is something that I love to see. So it'd be awesome to hear about how it ultimately came together.
Yeah, no problem. I'll actually take it back to 2017. So back in 2017, the Premier League actually changed the rules. So at that point, there was only one brand allowed to be shown on the shirts of Premier League teams, the main shirt sponsor on the centre of the shirt. But in 2017, the rule changed that clubs were then allowed to add another brand onto the shirt on the left-hand sleeve. So at that point, Arsenal and all other clubs, but Arsenal effectively initiated a sales process. It was a global process, actually going out to look for premium brands, possibly developing brands, but most importantly, the appropriate type of brands that we would like to shortlist to ultimately be the brand that would become our first sleeve partner. So that was a really thorough process involving a lot of people, a lot of conversations. But during that process, we were introduced to the Rwanda Development Board, and it became clear very quickly that this could be a very interesting proposition, not just for Rwanda, but also for Arsenal. And those discussions really centred around using the power and reach of the Arsenal name to help Rwanda enhance its profile, tell its incredible story, but also promote the country's culture, heritage, and its attraction as a luxury tourist destination. So this was all about Rwanda being also an official tourism partner of Arsenal as well. So those discussions went very well, and the next stage of that was to actually pay a visit to the country. So a commercial delegation from Arsenal, which I was part of, actually travelled over to Rwanda, to Kigali, to actually meet the team at the Rwanda Development Board, but it also allowed us to experience the country firsthand. It raised our awareness of the incredible transformation that's happened in the country over the last generation, and it really reinforced our ambition to take the proposal forward. For us, we were just really excited at the potential of the partnership and the fact that tourism being such a strategic priority for the country and for the country's future, that would be a central element of what this partnership could be. And then through that, then the discussions happened very, very quickly, and we worked together to basically shape a proposal that aligned with the objectives of RDB, as we'll call them, Rwanda Development Board, and the ambitions that they had for Rwanda. And so the agreement was really tailored around those elements. And another couple of points that really made this real synergy between ourselves and Rwanda was just some of the values and attributes of Rwanda. And one area is that Rwanda, it's an incredibly ambitious and progressive country. They're always looking to the future and looking to improve. There's great unity within the country, so the way that people have come together over the last generation to really push the country forward together is really admirable. And the final point is just the fact that Rwanda really leads the way in sustainability, gender diversity, and also it's a very safe country, safe for tourists. So all those things added together made it such a compelling proposition for Arsenal, that things moved very, very quickly. I mean, I think overall, I mean, if you look at this type of partnership appearing on our shirt, it's a very, very big, it's a very important deal. But I think that whole process from start to finish happened in less than 6 months, which is really sort of incredible. But I think it really does underline the fact that we recognised very early on that this was the right partnership for both of us. So overall, you can tell I'm really proud of it. Everyone at Arsenal Football Club is really proud of the partnership that we've got in place.
Awesome. And wow, yeah, a partnership such as this coming together in 6 months is definitely, a testimony to how the synergy was quite clear from the beginning and the outset. And I guess, Emmanuel, from your perspective, I guess on the other side of the table, obviously Rwanda's been through such a transformational period. There's obviously great history, but looking forward, I get the sense that, and I think this partnership really showcased the ambition of Rwanda, but also the region in total. So I guess from your perspective, what was some of the visionary, decisions and objectives that you saw in this opportunity that you thought would be a fantastic move?
Thanks for the question. And indeed, just like Gordon mentioned, I mean, even for us, Visit Rwanda, the RDB team and everybody, we are very proud of this partnership as well, because we truly believe it's far more than just a logo on the sleeve. You know, this is something that we believe hinges more on the shared commitment with Arsenal to do something transformational. And just like you said, you know, Rwanda and brand Rwanda as it stands now really is all about doing things differently, being creative, being modern, innovative, and yes, transformational, you know, things with impact. So as Gordon mentioned, these are the things that also made this partnership really hit the right notes from the get-go. So with tourism being our #1 foreign exchange earner, it was clear from our standpoint that we needed to make a significant investment, and one that actually helped to reset, you know, the old perceptions, the old narratives, and establish new ones. And also make sure we're communicating what the Rwanda of today can offer discerning travelers and investors. So this partnership, you know, being the official tourism partner for a global club, a big club like Arsenal, you know, it offers us the platform to do this and to engage.
Awesome. And from I guess going forward now, it's been a few years since the partnership has obviously developed, and I guess you'll go through that process of, you know, planning your activations and then looking at how you'll kind of execute and deliver the partnership. I guess from an impact perspective, because of course that's always the I guess the criterion. What you love to see is real impact, and especially in a partnership such as this. You know, what is, I guess, Emmanuel, starting with you, what has been some of the major impacts that you've seen, I guess, on the ground in Rwanda, but also globally as well, given the strength of the Arsenal brand? You know, what are some of the elements that have kind of come to life, even things that maybe you weren't anticipating or expecting as part of the partnership?
Quite a few, to be honest, and I'll probably mention a few and then let Gordon take part of the question as well. I mean, one of the ones that really was at the very forefront of this whole strategy was to achieve a 5% annual increase in tourism visitors. And also we were looking to double the tourism revenue by 2024. So the tourism increases as of 2019, for example, were 17% year on year. And again, if we were aiming for 5%, you can see that this was far more significant than we anticipated. And that's also, speaks to the value of this partnership, and that this sort of collaborative, strategic alignment based on shared values and shared understanding, shared vision, it really does work. And I mean, the impact goes far into coaching clinics, thinking to the development of football in Rwanda as well, and many other things. But perhaps Gordon can also, chip in and mention a few of the things that have been an impact.
Yeah, and just to, I guess, just to build on, I guess, some of the achievements or impact that's happened. I think, Deji, you mentioned it's been going for a number of years, but actually the first year was the start of the 2018-19 season. So this is only the second season. So I think that's another thing. The fact you've said that is good. That suggests that people are used to seeing Visit Rwanda on the Arsenal shirts and the other activity that we've done. But yeah, we've done a lot in a short period of time. And those tourism figures so far are really positive, and we want to keep building on those. Yeah, just some other things, I guess, achievements. Since the partnership was announced, for example, there was over 1,000 articles published about the partnership when we announced it in May 2018. I mean, I think that signifies the sort of reach and the profile that I mentioned of Rwanda wanting to tap into Arsenal. The fact that the club, the name, the shirt is seen millions of times every day, that really helps Rwanda enhance a profile. The US is a big target market for Rwanda. I think there was 1,000% increase in searches for Rwanda directly after the announcement. Since we started working together, we've developed some very strong content together. So far, just on Arsenal channels, that content's delivered more than 20 million views. And I guess the exposure benefit of having Visit Rwanda on the sleeve of the shirt has delivered over £24 million of media value just in the 2018-19 season alone, along with some of the other assets within the stadium. So again, you can see just the range of areas that's involved in the partnership that's ultimately all driving the key message around Rwanda and the premium nature of Rwanda as a tourist destination. Just an additional point is the fact that, as Emmanuel mentioned there, about coaching. Football development is a key part of this. That we wanted through the partnership to ensure that we also leave a legacy within the country. So Arsenal are well known for developing talent, and we're working very closely with the Rwandan FA and the Ministry of Sport in Rwanda to actually develop football programmes to increase the quality and provision of coaching within the country to ultimately benefit young boys and girls, males and females, at older age groups as well across the country. So that's again something we're very proud and committed to do over the coming years. And we know that the Rwandan FA has got very big ambitions to improve the standard of the elite level teams as well as the participation level. So that's something we're really focused on.
No, that's fantastic. I find it. I'm curious as well. I guess from a domestic perspective, the Premier League and Arsenal specifically is such a global product in that sense. And of course, fans and I guess clubs' heartlands of supporters are quite now used to seeing, I guess, brands and organisations which maybe they weren't so familiar with. I mean, I've got a couple of friends who are Arsenal fans, and I remember at the time them literally going on Google to research Rwanda. I mean, they weren't so familiar with Rwanda, and I guess that's a good testament to say actually this is the type of response you want to see. Gordon, I mean, did you see similar responses from fans in the UK when the partnership announcement was made, and I guess as activation plans have kind of rolled out? Has there always been that, I guess, increased desire to learn a bit more about what the partnership is?
Yeah, I think that's definitely what's happened. I mean, there's no secret to say that when we announced it, there was a lot of positive feedback, but there was some negative feedback as well, and that was something that we both, when we entered into this partnership, we both knew together that we would need to work through that and communicate the key messages of why we've done this partnership and why Rwanda are investing in a Premier League football club, they're investing in Arsenal. And I think we've done a really good job together of actually changing the perception of Rwanda during that time. I mean, a good example is one of the things that we do as a football club within the partnerships programme is that we invest in research every year, and we run a pretty extensive research project with our fans. So it's over 20,000 fans across 28 markets, and we run it year on year. And the reason we do that is to actually demonstrate to our partners the value of their association with the club. And with Rwanda, we actually asked our fans in advance of the announcement about Rwanda, and the results, I mean, the results were amazing. So in advance, we asked the question, and at that point, 71% of those respondents were not aware of Rwanda as a tourism destination. But 1 year later, when we asked the same question, 51% of respondents didn't just say they were aware, they were actually more likely to consider Rwanda as a tourist destination. So that's really flipped round to a consideration level within 1 year. So to your question around how did the fans take it? How did they understand it? I think we've really, in a short period of time, realised who Rwanda are. Visit Rwanda. It's a tourist destination. It's somewhere that we should think about actually visiting in the future.
Yeah, fantastic. And I think that's a real good showcase. And I think, it's always good to have the data to show how that, the partnership has that kind of transformational effect, which is what you want to see. And I think I guess we've seen, Africa as a continent be a real growth market for I guess leading sports clubs and football clubs specifically, especially European clubs. And I've seen consistently that interest in the region. I mean, the fan bases and the love and desire of football, but specifically the Premier League, is so vast. I guess a question to both of you, I guess coming from different angles, how has that partnership kind of really showcased that growth? I mean, I know there's been great partnerships before, and we've seen in recent years around that Sport Pesa and from Kenya having involvement. Nigeria's had a lot of regional partnerships across the years. I know Arsenal's been involved in that as well. But specifically this partnership, I guess the tourism link as well. Has that seen a shift at all in the region? And I guess what other areas are there to explore, which have kind of been a knock-on from this partnership? So Gordon, maybe we can start with you first, and Emmanuel, it'd be great to get your take on this as well.
Yeah, I mean, Africa as a continent is very, very important to Arsenal. I mean, we know we've got a massive fan base in Africa. I mean, I think it's always difficult to get exact numbers, but I believe we've got more than 90 million followers there. We've got over 500,000 registered members. We've got tens of millions of fans tune in to watch Arsenal games week after week in the Premier League. So we know how popular we are in Africa. And we've had other partnerships in Africa, not just in Rwanda. We're lucky enough to have another partnership in Rwanda, actually, with Skol Brewery, which came directly off the back of our agreement with RDB. But we've agreements with Airtel, MTN, so Nigeria, Kenya, and Ghana, and Ethiopia. So across Africa, Discovery in South Africa. So it's a very important territory. And I think what hopefully has been seen with our partnership with RDB, Visit Rwanda on the shirt, is that hopefully as the economies in Africa continue to develop, that more brands will actually look to the platform that is the Premier League, and clubs like Arsenal as the biggest teams within the Premier League, that it really is a powerful marketing platform, for brands to continue to grow.
Great. And earlier you spoke about the development work that's taken place through the partnership and that coaching development piece. One thing that always fascinates me in partnerships such as this is, of course, that the sheer marketing strength is fantastic, and I can see how that can really help and I guess drive growth from a brand perspective, and obviously the knock-on effects of that. But in terms of, I guess, looking at, I guess, domestically on the ground in Rwanda, Emmanuel, what has been, I guess, some of the real, I guess, benefits of having Arsenal involved? Looking at, I guess, even the domestic game and the knock-on effect of having, expert coaches and elite coaches from across the world coming across to Rwanda and supporting the local coaches and the local teams. Has that been something which has been received well, and is that an area of growth that you can see going forward?
I mean, to echo some of the words that Gordon mentioned, firstly, Arsenal is a big club in Africa. There's a very huge following in Rwanda as well, and no doubt there are more Arsenal fans in Rwanda now than before. Some even going as far as having a secondary club. So that's one thing that's changed. But on impact of the football coaching, definitely very well received. I mean, for those who know a bit of Rwanda's story so far, we have a very young population, over 60% Rwanda 30, and a large percentage of those also under 25. So it's great to have something like this that offers, a large number of young Rwandan girls and boys who may one day aspire to be either football professionals or just to have this level of coaching and at such a high standard. So that's been great. But then to also, touch on your previous questions, we certainly believe that this partnership has been an example, something that a lot of other African countries can probably consider, maybe, or even other brands, different parts of the continent. And you'd have to also admit that it was quite an unusual proposition, in the sense that we're not a device or a product. It was challenging to kind of communicate everything at the start and make sure everybody gets, buys into it. But what we saw very quickly is people were engaging with the brand, they were engaging with the story. So through the content that we've been able to create, one of the challenges has definitely been on the branding angle anyway, but the context and relatability, making sure we hit the right notes with the pieces we bring out, making sure it's relevant to the target audience, making sure that it allows people to discover Rwanda without straying too far from their own day-to-day. So things like the Amasunzu barbershop piece we did, talking about hairstyles, linking it to Rwanda's culture and the cultural tourism offering, talking about what footballers love to talk about, which is hair and style, and things like that are pieces that we're quite proud of. But we also understand that we have to be creative, even with this platform, to produce things that are relatable, and that's how you actually really secure the right engagement. And not everybody will be able to travel to Rwanda at the same time anyway, so it's other ways of being able to offer the experience of visiting Rwanda. And your earlier question, if I may add, regarding the domestic impact, and as you saw from the video as well at the beginning, in just 2 years, we've seen a very significant impact in the UK. So we've since seen the UK increase its numbers of travelers to Rwanda. And the UK has emerged from 5th position to now 2nd highest source of visitors to Rwanda. And that's also a very, very strong and positive indication of what this partnership has been able to achieve. So with the UK's emergence as a key source market for tourists, we work to build on this through, again, all the activities, the activations, engaging with the fans who some had no idea what Rwanda was. And also a good number actually did, and some were very well informed. So there's that balance. And it's just been a genuine pleasure to kind of see people discover this thing, this new experience, and also being able to do so creatively with all the other intertwined linkages, like the National Geographic partnership, for instance. So there's a lot there. We could talk, for hours and hours, but I just wanted to note those few things.
Awesome. And just touching on a few things you mentioned, you spoke at one point about creativity in your activation, your planning, and I was thinking about, looking at the context of 2020, which has been an interesting year to say the least, and challenging for many, obviously with the pandemic and the crisis, but of course for those in the travel and the tourism industry, it's been a tremendous hit globally across the world. And I guess with that in mind and with that lens, looking forward, how do you plan, and what are some of the thinking about plans in terms of activation and how we can still bring the partnership to life, albeit through the challenges that are to come with COVID, and even the uncertainty that it still lies out there in terms of tourism and travel restrictions. Has that been, a major conversation point over the last recent months? That we're really interested to hear, starting with Emmanuel, your thoughts on that, and what has been the reaction and looking forward, how things going to go down?
Oh, absolutely. The impact was from the get-go. Naturally, we had to make some adjustments during the pandemic. And we also had to be more creative and working with, a very, very good team colleagues at Arsenal as well, to be more creative on how we can maintain engagement and exposure for our brand. And in this, unprecedented times. However, our overall plans essentially, when you ask how has this impacted our planning for the partnership, the overall plans essentially have not changed. That is to continue to promote and position Rwanda as a top destination of choice, engaging with a 300+ million Arsenal community and the global audience, to inform, educate, and invite them to visit Rwanda. That remains very much our focus. So essentially the what hasn't changed, it's more the how, some of the ways we will do so, of course, without having large gatherings and fans not being allowed to go to the stadiums. Match day activations, are one of those things that has had to change. So we will figure out other ways to still be able to engage with fans through competitions, through solo emails, and many other available things that we have through this partnership. And so far it's been working. I think everybody's adapting to these times, and we're very confident that we can continue to deliver on this partnership, So in a way, this partnership is now even more significant than it was before, back in 2018 when we started, as we now need to communicate and engage on this message, following a time where travel had come to a complete standstill. So this is now, the time is now,
Great. And Gordon, I guess from an Arsenal perspective, and specifically, I guess, partner communications and partner comms, how be interesting to understand the process internally that took place, once the pandemic was really in full swing. I can imagine it would have been a lot of internal chats, a lot of partnership rights which were planned in, and obviously the Premier League shut down for that period. Tell us a bit about what the last few months have been, and I guess even specifically Rwanda, how, I guess, as a club, you've been able to service partners' needs amongst the challenging landscape and I guess world that we've been in over the start of 2020.
It's a good question. It's been very busy, extremely busy the last few months. I mean, I guess it's probably worth starting with the fact that as a result of the pandemic, the football season was suspended. So that was the biggest impact. And obviously through that, with no games, that means we don't have fans in the stadium, and a lot of the rights of our partners, especially someone like RDB, the exposure that they get from Visit Rwanda, the exposure that they get on the sleeve for Visit Rwanda is that was also suspended because we weren't playing any matches. From a partnerships perspective, it was really communication was the key point. That we just aim to have really strong, transparent, and regular communication with all of our partners to explain the situation. It's very much an evolving situation. Even now, things are changing every day. So it was really important that we always try to be honest with our partners. And it was a case of understanding. It's also a big challenge for Arsenal Football Club, but for most of our partners, such as RDB, tourism, Emirates Airline, the aviation industry, which also links to tourism. Adidas is another lead partner. Their stores around the world are all closed and limited to online. So the majority of our partners, their businesses have been under severe pressure the last few months. So yeah, it's also about understanding from our partners how can we support them during this time, and really it was about trying to be creative and realise that even though we're not playing matches, there's still great interest in Arsenal Football Club, and there's still massive demand across our digital and social channels that allowed us to focus more on content and been able to try and add some value to Rwanda and other partners during that period until the games started again in June, which then, as you can imagine, the demand for across those platforms again grew significantly. The broadcast coverage started up again, so luckily we've we've not finished the season yet, but we're close to doing that. So from at least we're going to play all of our matches, and all of that exposure and the rights around the matches are all being delivered. But fundamentally, it was all about trying to provide good, honest, transparent communication at all times, and try and work together to find good solutions. But as just to finish off, as Emmanuel said, the toughest part is still to come, because Rwanda, the borders are starting to open back up. I think 1st of August, really good news. But again, it's how can we do even more in a tougher environment to keep promoting tourism and increase the numbers of people going to Rwanda.
Yeah, understood. It certainly has been a challenging period, and just thinking through the amount of, I guess, very, very challenges, and even things which are unexpected, even from what I've seen from my personal experience during this period, has been crazy. But it's great to see, I guess, when you have a real partnership where there's a good understanding, both, you know, the rights holder, the club, and the brand. There's always going to be the element of patience and, I guess, a commitment to make things work even amongst, you know, these difficult periods. I guess we're going to have a ton of questions after this. I've got one more question myself, and I think Gabriel actually has a special question as well. So, but in terms of looking ahead, and we've touched already, Gordon, you mentioned about there's been knock-on effects and positive effects of the partnership. For example, you know, you've been able to, you know, bring on board another partner from Rwanda. But what other opportunities do you feel there may be in the future? Of course, there's been times where delegations have gone to Rwanda, and, you know, in the video we saw David Luiz was there last year. But I guess broad thinking, you know, Arsenal going on tour there, you know, pre-season tours, you know, what are the opportunities that could play out in the future? And I guess same to you, Emmanuel, you know, what areas would you love to see going forward? Of course, caveating a COVID world, but let's, you know, let's blue sky thinking.
Yeah, I'm happy to go first on that. I mean, I think going back to the very first question around when we were working on the partnership together, we were very clear with each other that just focusing on awareness was not enough. So that's why within the agreement, we've included in that we'll take a number of our ex-players, what we call legends, out to Rwanda. So we've already had Alex Scott, Lorraine, Tony Adams have been out to Rwanda. As you mentioned, we're also taking our players. So we took David Luiz from our men's first team, and hopefully later this year we'll take some of our women's players as well, if that's possible. They were actually, 3 of our players were meant to go over the last few weeks, but obviously because of travel restrictions, etc., that's not been possible. But the reason that we included legends and players within that was to ensure it's not just about awareness, because it allows them to travel to the country, and then we can create really strong content from that can help tell the story of Rwanda and showcase the premium nature of the country as a tourist destination. So that was why it was important we included that type of thing within the agreement. But yeah, we'll be working on getting the women's players out there as soon as we possibly can.
Awesome. And Emmanuel, is there anything that, I guess, looking ahead really excites you? I mean, I appreciate some things that might be in development which you can't speak about, but it'd be awesome if you could share any little golden nuggets for us in terms of what is to come.
Golden nuggets. Well, in terms of what would we like to see, everything at the beginning of your question, would love to see the entire Arsenal team in Rwanda and all these things. I mean, but this, you know, in all seriousness, we're just very excited about the challenge ahead, because it's the same plan as I mentioned earlier, but it's a different challenge, because now you have to adapt to slightly how you do things. And we are assured, of course, we're confident in Arsenal, because they too, you know, are very innovative, and there are a lot of things that we align together. So not much I can share in terms of golden nuggets, but I would say just stay tuned. I think being informed by what we've achieved so far, a lot of exciting content that we've produced, for example, a lot of insights, a lot of stories. There are some things that have taken place already, for example, content that we have put together. Perhaps I can talk about it. So one of the competitions we had last year, for instance, the Champions Challenge, involved Arsenal players and 3 lucky Arsenal fans that we picked through a competition we ran through emails to be part of a sort of challenge, essentially, where the winner would win an 8-day trip to Rwanda. So an Arsenal fan would be traveling to Rwanda. So that video is all over YouTube, and we're looking forward to sharing this very lucky fan's journey and story. And that's one example of many of the things, of course, we intend to really push and see. It's also storytelling, and I think now is an opportunity to just pick up where we left off in a sense, but adapting to the different measures in place, making sure that the message on safety as well is reinforced in a slightly different way. And yeah, we're excited, we're thrilled, just as the video suggested, that's, there's more to come.
Fantastic. I'm sure it would be a real great experience for that family went across. So look forward to seeing that. And so now it's time for some questions. I'm going to hand over to Gabriel because I know he has one which he would love to share with the guys. So Gabriel, please feel free.
Cool. Thanks so much, Deji. And great panel so far. I guess this question more so led us towards Emmanuel. I know Gordon at the beginning mentioned about people's perspectives on when the deal was first announced. And I just want to touch on that, but maybe from the opposite side of things, from the side of Emmanuel and people within Rwanda, or just from the diaspora in general. And also just to make a keynote on this partnership is being so strong in terms of what you've spoken about, changing the narrative and perspective of the nation. But how key is it? The president of Rwanda, President Kagame, is a real leader and has really notified sport as a tool to bring about change. But Emmanuel, in your perspective, how important is it to have key leadership who really understand sport and can use it as a tool to help, as we see with Rwanda, change a nation and people's perspectives?
How key is it? I think it's absolutely crucial. And I think we're very fortunate to have that, visionary leadership. I guess it's not just an understanding of sport, it's more understanding of what, understanding of finding innovative ways to deliver to citizens as well. You have to put people first. You have to understand what can have the best impact, and not just for the short term. I think more key than just knowing sport is understanding a long-term, having a long-term vision.
Yeah.
Because we are very, very aware of the fact that a lot of the gains from this partnership will also be seen in many years to come. We haven't seen everything yet right away. So being able to, having this visionary leadership and understanding from the top all the way across the leadership structure is frankly very key. And with that, you can understand how something like this can even come about. It's also knowing, who you're delivering for. I mentioned, we haven't, as a country, we're not shying away from the history that we have. We're not shying away from the challenges of the past. We're, if anything, trying to fast track development. And you have to be creative. You have to do things differently. You cannot just stick to, the usual way of things. It might take far too long. So the short answer is it's very important, and it has shown, not just in this piece we're discussing, but in a lot of things that Rwanda has achieved so far, that has actually set it up to be, an ideal, a suitable partner.
No, I love that. Thank you. Deji, back to you.
Awesome. We have got a few questions actually which have come in, so I'm going to kind of run through them and we'll see how we get on with time. But the first one is from GC Sports Management. And firstly, he's thanking everyone for an amazing panel, which is good. But he's asked, and I think Emmanuel, you touched on this earlier, do you foresee a trend being set with other African tourism boards looking at the success of this partnership? Tourism can be a key driver in countries' economic and business development. I guess broadly thinking, how do you see that can play out in other nations and neighboring countries going forward?
Sure.
Yeah.
Do I foresee a trend being set? Very possibly. We've seen a few shifts within, I guess, the tourism space of people understanding how partnerships work, because I guess traditionally you think it's, like you mentioned, just about visibility, and Gordon alluded to it as well. This is not just visibility. There's a lot more beneath that, and people have to understand it's also a story, and it's more than just seeing a logo on the shirt. So for seeing it as a trend, I'm not sure how to say, but it's very possible, especially because even for us, our initial objectives, some of them we've surpassed, and there's a lot more that we're still expecting. So for, I guess, the players or the countries that depend on tourism, as we do, to see this working, surely it must bring up a why not sort of thought, So it's possible, but we're just proud that we were able to achieve what we've achieved so far through this, and to, I guess, be amongst the first to do it in the way we've done. It's something we're very happy and proud of.
Awesome. Gordon, any further builds on that, or?
No, I think hopefully it does encourage other countries to realise that, I guess, again, what I was saying earlier, the marketing platform as the Premier League, and the clubs within the Premier League. I'd like to say not all of them can offer the same potential, but I think it hopefully showcases what can be achieved when you start off with clear objectives. And you mentioned the support, you mentioned the president, but I think the key point here is there's real support from the highest levels of government behind this partnership, which is what you need, because you need commitment to ensure that the investment's there, and then the commitment ongoing to make sure that you continually build on what's happened so far. So yeah, it's not easy, it's not simple, but yeah, if you've got the commitment in place, then there's a lot that can be achieved. So hopefully there will be more African nations look at that and look to get involved.
And I think it shines, brighter light on sport as well. We have to, appreciate the fact that sport is a global language, football more so as well. So I guess seeing what can be achieved is equally significant as just eyeing, what is an opportunity for, a tourism brand. It's also how far, we can really engage and all communicate using this global language of sport. There's a lot of value there, and there's a lot of other things that are coming up that are very relevant and topical to the times we're in. So who knows? Who knows what will happen?
Awesome. We have another question from Judith, and maybe Gordon will start with you, because I know you mentioned the women's team coming across soon, and she's asked, do you have any current engagements to develop women's football in Rwanda? So I guess maybe sharing a bit more insight into the planned visit for the Arsenal ladies to come across would be great.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, the visit would actually be to three of the players coming over as the plan, what we're trying to do, and what we would have done if it wasn't for the pandemic. But yeah, I think the starting point is actually around football development. So I mentioned earlier that one of the commitments that we've got is that we're working with the Rwandan FA to actually help them develop a coaching philosophy and a style of play, but also increase coaching opportunities and more participation opportunities across the country. But most importantly, that's not just for young boys and males. This is for girls, females as they get older as well, adults. So it's supporting both boys and girls. I said earlier, Rwanda's very impressive in terms of their gender diversity, and that's something we've been clear on as well. We're not just trying to support men's and male football, it's football as a whole in the country. So bringing 3 of our players over, hopefully later this year, will be another way for us to actually reinforce how young girls can actually play football and develop a career in football if they want as well. But I think the key points are the benefits of actually playing sport and being able to regular exercise, and so that's something that, again, we're really proud of the work we're doing with the Rwandan FA on that.
Awesome. And I've actually got another question for you, Gordon, as well. And I'm sure, Emmanuel, you'll be able to touch on this as well. So what have been some of the biggest challenges from a partnership delivery and execution perspective? Especially, partnering with a brand which is primarily based in the African market. Has there been any, distinctions which have been different? And as a transatlantic partnership, with Arsenal being in more commercially aware environments as opposed to some of the other brands you've partnered with within Africa. So I guess at the heart of the question is, what have been some of the biggest challenges that Arsenal faced?
Working with Rwanda, or just
in terms of delivery and execution of activation, or have there been, or maybe there's not been challenges?
I was going to say working with Emmanuel, but again, more generally, if we're talking about the pandemic, maybe if it's focused on the pandemic, it's all the things I mentioned there. Our ways of working have basically had to completely change more or less overnight. So that's a big challenge, and it forces everyone to think differently. But from that, I think a lot of positives come as well, because maybe something that might have taken 1 year to work on may have been fast-tracked as a result of the pandemic forcing everyone to come together and think differently. So I think although challenges happen, the pandemic's probably the biggest challenge all of us have ever faced, maybe will ever face, touch wood. But it does bring certain benefits, because if you approach it in the right way and embrace the fact that things are changing, then you can hopefully change things for the better and quicker and be more efficient. And ultimately, in my job, the aim is to provide better service to our partners. So that's what we are focused on at this time. Challenges with Rwanda, I think they're great to work with, because they are very clear in terms of what they're seeking to achieve. They push us hard, quite rightly, because they invest in the club, and our job is to ensure that we provide high levels of service and capability and expertise, so that they get the most out of the investment. But as I said right at the start, it's something we're really proud of the partnership, and it's the challenge now is, when tourism has been affected by the pandemic, it's how we address that and how we can work together to find solutions around that going forward, as from sort of 1st of August when the borders reopen.
Great, and I guess to follow on from that, Emmanuel, what's been some of your highlights in terms of being on the ground and making things happen? What's been some of your highlights working with Arsenal?
I don't think we have long enough to run through them. But just to also touch on challenges, frankly, there haven't been any. In the way you asked the question, challenges in delivering, that there have not been any challenges. The only one, as Gordon mentioned, is the situation we found ourselves in, with the pandemic, because now the traveling that could take place and some of the things we would have wanted could not happen. But that's circumstantial. That's not because, it was actually a challenge. The only other thing I can think of links to an earlier point we made when we were discussing about how this is also about storytelling, quite frankly. People have to be able to connect to the brand and not just, there are many Arsenal fans that through the match activation sometimes, that approach the stand of what we're doing, and then they'll their eyes would open up saying, oh, it's Rwanda, you know. So you can't just assume because it's on the jersey that everybody understands. You actually have to engage, and we've been doing that through content and through different things like that. And the challenge there is essentially, I guess, how do you make our story relatable to an Arsenal fan who lives in the UK, who lives wherever they live. You know, you have to also, again, stray from old perceptions. You have to stray from, you know, stereotypical messaging, things like that. So that is a challenge in a way, but it's more of a creative challenge. You know, it's not a delivery issue. And with all those challenges, they've all presented amazing opportunities. So going right through to the storytelling, highlights have been the content pieces. Personally, you know, and if we go back to the one that, if I'm not mistaken, Gordon, is still the highest viewed IGTV piece, the barbershop, the Amasunzu.
Yeah.
That's very significant because that's telling a Rwandan story. It's linking to our culture, our heritage, and it's connecting in a very relevant way to today's culture as well, you know, and to footballers' culture, hair, appearance, style. But did you know where this particular style originated from? So going to that and creating something that fun and engaging and topical to present a cultural tourism offering, I think was definitely a highlight, one of the highlights for me. So I'm very proud to be part of that. And just seeing the level of engagement and connection from Arsenal fans who, again, some probably would have not even thought of that. It's, yeah, that's one of a long list of highlights.
Awesome. So I think we might have time for one more question. I'm looking at Gabriel. Give me a nod, maybe. Cool. One more. And maybe, Emmanuel, this might be for you. And actually, it's from a gentleman called Emmanuel. And he's said, and, you know, and you've touched on this right at the beginning, I believe. You know, what are some of the key tracking metrics used to measure the impact of this partnership? And how is the country, I guess the region and Visit Rwanda, been tracking against those metrics so far? So maybe a comment for both of you in terms of how I guess your impact reports and the measurability of the relationship has been so far.
Yeah.
So then Gordon can start. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm happy to start. So from an Arsenal perspective, yeah, I mean, on all of our partnerships, we encourage our partners to have a research program in place as well, but we also invest in research and evaluation. So I measured the exposure valuation that we do, because the Visit Rwanda being on the sleeve, as I said, the shirt's getting seen millions of times every day. So that's getting measured across broadcast and social media throughout the year. All of the content that's being produced has been tracked in terms of the views, the engagement of that content, the visits our players do in terms of how that performs, the football development. There's objectives agreed with the Rwandan FA and the Ministry of Sport and what we're seeking to achieve on that. So there's measurements in place in terms of how many people are receiving coaching, how many coaches are undergoing that training. And then I guess the final part was the survey that we run with our fans that I mentioned, which is the multi-market survey of over 20,000 of our members around the world, to actually give their thoughts and feelings about our commercial partners.
Fantastic. Emmanuel, any other builds on that before we close?
As I mentioned, so we have objectives set, and then we measure based on these objectives and using the tools available that Arsenal uses. But then one thing I wanted to note, you know, beyond just tracking engagement of all the activities we do, the content pieces, the online stuff, you know, all the levels of engagement. One thing to note is also that we're very aware that there are also a lot of gains that are intangible. These are the things we can measure. that, of course, inform of how the partnership is doing, the surveys and the large pool of Arsenal's database and community. But then understanding that there are also some intangible gains is necessary, because that also helps guide the remainder of the strategy. There will be some things we're not able to quantify. There will be benefits. There will be some people who, discover Rwanda through somebody sharing something, who are not necessarily directly connected to Arsenal. And that's also worth bearing in mind. So as much as you will have the insights, we also are aware that there are some things we will not be able to always measure to the T. We have, we put all the effort we can to obviously track and be accountable.
Thank you. And I think we may be out of time, but I think this has been extremely insightful. And it's good to understand a bit more about the partnership, I guess, behind the scenes, it's making, it's how it came together, and I guess importantly, the impact that it's had. And it really is a testament. It's lovely to see, partnerships which are, really building on the synergy that they saw right at the beginning. Sometimes you see partnerships look great and everyone's excited, and over time they die down. But I really get that sense of energy coming from both of you guys, and look forward to seeing what the future looks like. So, thank you so much for your time. It's been a pleasure moderating as well myself. And I guess, Gabriel, I'll hand over to you to round it up.
Brilliant. Thank you all for your time, and your just sharing your knowledge and expertise into such a groundbreaking partnership. It's been really great. So thank you once again. I'm looking forward to what's to hold in the future for this partnership, for Rwanda, for Arsenal moving forward. Even though they beat Liverpool yesterday, Gordon, but I'm getting over that. But no, it's all good. And to everyone else who is tuned in to listen, thank you so much for your time. I hope you have enjoyed this full series, as we've come to a conclusion now, to an end. But thank you very much. I just want to reiterate that we will be sending over a survey. Shouldn't take more than 5 minutes, but that will help us move forward and hopefully produce better content for you guys. But once again, I know this is virtual, but I'm sure our panelists, everyone will be clapping and saying thank you so much for your insight and feedback. So I guess until next time, thank you everyone, and take care.
All the best. See ya.
See ya.
Yeah.